Mehmet Baris Can Ülker, who's an associate professor at Istanbul Technical University's Institute of Disaster Management Earthquake Engineering. Really good to have you with us, Professor. Firstly, when you've seen the scale of the destruction across the 10 provinces in southeastern Turkey, places like Antakya, which have almost been completely destroyed, how surprised are you at just how widespread the destruction is?
Well, it is quite natural that such a large region has been affected by this two extremely large quakes that happened in mere 9 hours. There is now 11 districts, nearby districts, affected by these two earthquakes, these two devastating massive quakes. I'm not surprised that, and also not only that, I'm also not surprised that many casualties that our country had. Because of the fact that we now know the structural quality, in the entire region. As a civil engineer myself, I am absolutely out of words that one doesn't want to believe that we are still and we have been, making our structures unfortunately not earthquake resistant. So that's what I can say about that.
Yes.
That immense event.
And thankfully, we did see that the apartment buildings that were built by Turkey's housing agency, TOKİ, did survive. The vast majority of them did survive when you contrast that to other more recent developments that collapsed spectacularly. So clearly, there is the ability there to build these structures to a code that will resist earthquakes, such as the one that we saw almost 2 weeks ago. So how important is it then that when the reconstruction does happen, that these strict building codes are rigorously monitored and enforced?
The answer to that is simple, is that as long as you follow the principles outlined in the current or in the at time building code, Turkish building code, it is quite possible and frankly not that hard to build durable structures, earthquake-resistant structures, with their foundations interacting very well with the soil conditions, even though the soil conditions are not that of helpful. They are weak in the area. Yes, even I was there last week with our reconnaissance research team in the Adıyaman, in the city of Adıyaman, investigating with the mission of investigating the government buildings, ranging from mosques to hospitals. Some of them were still intact. They had minor damage, which can easily be retrofitted. So it is quite significant that our construction engineers follow the philosophy associated with building resistant structures with their quite improved design codes. So it's not only that, it's just that the local soil conditions are also very important, in that we know in the regions of Kahramanmaras, Adıyaman, and especially Hatay, Antakya, there are weak soil conditions that are susceptible to liquefaction with saturated weak sands, loose sands. So in one yard you see that there is all those structures overturned with no upper structural damage whatsoever because of the soil failure, mostly due to liquefaction, and nearby buildings are also, are not affected at all. So it's quite non-uniform, if you will. The scatter of all these structures, reinforced concrete structures in those areas. We know that even 2 or 3 year old buildings have collapsed, while more than 20-year-old ones are still in place, standing there. So the idea here is that if the building code is enforced, then the thing is that the structure. So we have to prevent collapse. So we have to prevent collapse and provide life safety, right? So we never design our buildings for not having any structural damage. That's not the goal here. We design our buildings as civil engineers such that they will exhibit damage up to a certain level with being durable and being flexible enough during earthquake, such that they will present resilience, and then you can just walk away. You walk out of the building with no casualties. Even though the earthquake, these 2 earthquakes being very large, but on the other hand, that it's
yes,
500 years probability earthquakes having 7.5 and above in the area. So that region was hit by 2 of those in a couple of hours. But there are buildings that are still withstanding that. So I think the question now is what's going to happen next?
yes. And can I ask you about the situation in Istanbul? Because we know that after the 1999 deadly earthquake near Istanbul that killed more than 17,000 people, we saw building codes being made a lot stricter in order to withstand future earthquakes. You mentioned the prospect of perhaps retrofitting buildings. Is that possible in a place like Istanbul, to retrofit buildings to make sure that they can withstand any future seismological event?
Oh, absolutely, no question. I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe there's more than 1 million reinforced concrete apartment buildings in the entire metropolitan Istanbul area, and the ones that have been built prior to that earthquake, 1999, that number is large, and about maybe 50%. I may be wrong, but I think about 50% of those are expected to have intermediate to major damage in the expected large earthquake in the Marmara region. So that you do the math. I mean, that's quite a large number, right? And the prospect of having unfortunate number of casualties with it. So what we do is that the people living in those structures need to be aware of the fact that that earthquake is expected. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So they need to get together with the people living in those apartment complexes and have their buildings checked by professionals in this field. I mean, civil engineers who are qualified enough with a lot of experience that will be able to check their buildings for not a lot of costs. So what the priority should be given to the ones that are expected to either fail or experience heavy damage. And there's a quick way of checking it. I mean, in terms of which buildings might suffer large damage, which ones won't. And if the people living in those structures, go with that application to the necessary, people, professionals, then and so they can find out whether or not they are safe in their apartment complexes. Those of the structure, reinforced concrete structures that are in the middle of, in between heavy and minor damage, expected to have medium amount of damage, is the key. So that those buildings will require a bit further analysis and investigation. And our university, Istanbul Technical University, along with other universities in the city of Istanbul, are quite capable of investigating those type of concrete structures. So those are the ones that need further assessment, and that won't even take much time, maybe in a mere 2 weeks' time, perhaps, once they apply. Once they go through that application, and that those buildings will also be determined in terms of whether or not they will experience that damage, and that their buildings. I mean, the thing is that if it requires retrofitting,
yes,
there's a wide spectrum of taking care of that retrofitting thing, is because the structural members, columns and shear walls especially, can be quite very well made, retrofitted or strengthened against an expected earthquake. Yeah.
Okay, Professor Mehmet Baris Can Ülker, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much for sharing your analysis with us here on TRT.